Yeah, well, the show is called All the Lives Alive Inside Me, which more recently feels literal, but started incredibly abstract and it's been kind of, I think for many people, when you work on a show for multiple years, kind of working on a body of work, again, going back to process is everything. Where you think you're going is never where you end up, and that's sometimes my favorite part, even if it sometimes is hard to get there.
That is the voice of Eliza Lutz, and you're listening to A Creative Excuse presented by Hecho. This is Frank Rose.
And I'm Cara Duvall. In this episode with Eliza Lutz, we talk about their solo exhibition, All the Lives Alive Inside Me, and both the metaphorical and literal meanings of that title.
Merging embroidered prints on paper with quilted portraits assembled from loved ones' clothes, the works in this exhibition chronicle the giving and receiving of care in all its forms, from child rearing to elder care, from domestic arts to community organizing.
Eliza's exhibition opens at Hecho Saturday, September 5th, and is on view through September 27th.
We'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform, or even leave a review. It really helps.
Thanks for listening.
I can hear you just doing this.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I think possibly this episode should start with
some grape ASMR.
That's the sound of Cara Duvall eating a grape
grapes
from Eliza Lutz's garden.
You were on it before when we did our sound and vision.
Yeah, back in October?
Yeah.
October.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
that's
this
fun.
is
I know
the
when I
first solo
seeing you.
appearance.
That was
Yeah.
a fun one.
It was fun.
I know, I'm sad I missed that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're here.
Yeah.
And we're in Kara's office's meeting room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right by Iconic
Yeah.
Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Where Eliza just told us that
Well,
they also were here in this room at
Yeah.
one point.
Used to work over there. It's a small town. We all work many places.
That's where I first met you.
That's true.
Yeah.
me too, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think I knew your coffee orders before your names, probably.
Yeah.
Although, fortunately, that's faded. The
Yeah.
coffee order part.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it was like chai, wasn't it?
Probably.
No. Okay. I'm like, if I still remember that, that's actually kind of
I
disturbing.
mean, probably. It's been a long time since I've been able to
Like-
drink the coffee.
15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there was, I don't know if we knew each other during AHA Festival, but me and Shannon and Johnny Bell
That's
were
right.
running that when you were in Grey Gardens.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Through all that good stuff.
Yeah. So a lot of times when we do these, like the first time, we kind of do the whole background spiel. You grew up in New Mexico?
I did. I was born in Albuquerque and I moved to Santa Fe at around age like 11, and then mostly grew up and stayed in Santa Fe until about 5-6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Moved to Albuquerque. So yeah, mostly always New Mexico bound in some
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And I met you through music. How has music always kind of been central? Did your parents play music? Was that around the house?
My dad played a lot of music and got me my first guitar when I was, I don't know, maybe also around 10 or 11. And I think also moving up here around that age, we had like Warehouse 21, the Teen Arts Center that gets you into music really young, and got a lot of opportunities to start playing shows even at like age 12 in high school.
Oh, wow.
Which was so great. Yeah.
Mm.
I was
Did you play a show when you were 12?
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't uncommon because that was kind of the way you did it. They'd have, the 12, 13-year-olds open the shows for the high school bands. Yeah, so I got into music a lot that way. And then also a lot of visual art through there. I mean, they had the most incredible silkscreen shack. I mean, I know people know about like the nicer silkscreen studio that came later with the new building, but the original one was like clamp lights in a shack, and like making your transparencies with a Sharpie on like recycled transparency paper, which honestly is the best way, I think, to learn as like a punky 12-year-old.
Yeah, that
You're like,
reminds me of when we went to University of Houston and went to the art department. They had this thing they called the Art Barn, and it looked like an armory building or something,
Wow.
you know, but it was like just this long corrugated aluminum building, you know, in Houston. So think about summers. And like, I mean, it felt like it was years and decades of toxic chemicals in the walls. And it was a sketchy building. They tore it down eventually, but yeah.
But yeah, you felt kind of cool.
Yeah, you did.
Actually going back there. You're like, yeah, I'm a real artist.
I feel like the smells and the visuals of a space like that help you learn to be a better printmaker.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta stay clean. I don't want my paper to touch anything in here.
Yeah, I don't know that there was any dedicated super clean table for that kind of printmaking, but yeah, to be 12 and be able to just make a band shirt on the fly right there was pretty
in the shack.
A radicalizing moment.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Which informed the rest of your art career.
For sure. You're like, oh, we could just do this back here this easily.
Yeah.
A little patience.
That kind of sums up, I feel like, you and everything I know about you.
Well, it's come full circle because now I still screen print in kind of a funky garage at my house. So from one shack / garage to another.
But yeah, I don't know, through I guess 15 years I've known you. It's like there's these chapters. I'm like, oh, Eliza is an amazing musician. Oh, and Eliza is this amazing artist. Oh, Eliza makes their own tattoos. Like they just stay up all night and make a whale on their arm. Oh, Eliza does this. Oh, but it's been just this like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, and then you just do it.
Yeah, I think that gets put in you. And at 12, you just get taken back somewhere. You're like, you want to just learn how to make T-shirts? And you're like, well, okay, we could just do anything, I guess. Don't have to have the nicest stuff. Just people with some patience to teach you, patience for yourself to teach yourself. Yeah, I think that I credit a lot of those early experiences with having that spark, I guess, later to take on hard creative challenges.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of the resistance to starting something like that can be, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that if you have the attitude of like, that's not an obstacle, then you can move through it, you know, much more easily. You know, me not knowing how to do this is like, okay, well, fine, I'll learn. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think it's the greatest gift to have instilled in oneself at a young age the confidence to meet uncertainty and the unknown with that attitude. I can do this. I'll learn.
Well, and enjoy that part of the process. I mean, it's always easier to say you're enjoying it after you've done all the hard part and like cried and screamed because things weren't working out along the way. But also there's something to be said for how satisfying I think it is to take on a new creative challenge, whether it's like a new medium or new project, whatever it is, and feel kind of completely overwhelmed in the beginning and like, oh, this isn't working out. But then by the end of it, to look back and maybe more so than the end result is the process that got you there. It was kind of the more satisfying part, I think, for me anyway, half the time.
Yeah, for sure. I did, because like the result, it's fleeting, right? I mean, the process is too in a way, but like, I don't know, I just remarking on like moments of success, you know, it's nice and you can appreciate it. And then it's sort of like, okay, time to get back to work, you know? I can't just like stay in like some kind of like glory of like, wow, I did it. I did it. And just stay there forever.
No, continue to learn.
Mhm.
I mean, I think I can maybe stay in that state a little too long because for me, actually starting a new thing feels monumental.
Starting is very hard. Once you get it rolling,
Yeah.
you're like, okay.
Yeah.
But those
there's
first
this, like,
steps.
Yeah, so I can stay in the like, okay, I completed it. I'm good. I'm good for a while. I really admire people who just jump in to a new project and like, I'm going to learn this. I'll figure it out. I'll ask for help. I'll be patient. Yeah, that's like, yeah, like I said, like that's the best skill one could have to navigate life, pretty much.
Well, the sustenance is an important one too. I know for me, like it's pretty easy to start new things, but like once I get to a certain point, well, and then you said ask for help. That's hard for me too.
Yeah.
And what do you see?
Little buggy?
Big old spider.
I think it's a cricket.
Oh, it's a cricket. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a spider. I don't know. Find your way. What was I? Oh yeah, it's hard for me to ask for help, and it's also hard for me to like sustain a project once it reaches a certain point of equilibrium. Like I start to kind of be like, okay, let's find something else. And the gallery has really been this place where that's really shifted a lot. And part of that is because it's like my paycheck now. So it's like I can't quite, pivot the same way.
Yeah.
But it's been really beneficial to find ways to like find the novelty in the sustenance of the project, like exhibitions changing over every month. That keeps my interest like excited. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine. Maybe it's a nice balance
It is.
of stability and newness.
Yeah.
Curious. Speaking of stability and newness, again, I'm just reflecting what I see in you. I witnessed within you tremendous stability and patience, but then also there's always this constant new project. And I'm curious where you feel stability or where you like find your stability or, what has felt like it's anchored you through all, I know some of it, but all of the terrain you've navigated.
I mean, I think it goes back to what we were talking about, that there's, if you're really process driven, I think in the way that I am, whatever kind of medium it is, whether it's music or visual art or other kinds of endeavors, academia now, I think it feels scary to be doing new things, new territory with a project, but there's also this kind of safe envelope to being inside of the space of a project. So I think you can get a lot of stability from that. I think I feel the least stable actually with what you were saying, the glory of the end game part, where I'm kind of like, oh no, I'm not tethered to this thing that kind of gives me some kind of flow in my day of even when it's tedious and there's parts of it that I don't want to do. Like maybe I took on a particularly intensive patch of embroidery on something and I'm like, why did I do it like that? I'm gonna have to do this every day for the next 5 days and my hands really hurt. But there's also something that's like you're just locked into this task, whether it's very tactile like that or a more conceptual side. And I think that there's a lot of like stability, and the patience kind of grows from that stability for me with being locked into new projects. So I think probably if I have a more unstable state, it's when I'm between projects. I do think that has gotten a little bit better with age. I'd like to think that I'm a little bit less mercurial and upset when I'm in between and I'm like, I should feel really happy that I completed this thing, but I just feel kind of untethered in like not a safe way, like in a way that just feels like a little too like I really derive a lot of mental calm from having a project to return to a little bit, even if it's just a little bit every day. And then I think that kind of became more important to me after just some growing chronic health issues really emerged for me in kind of like 2018, 2019, and kind of had like what I think a lot of people in that position go through is you have kind of an initial phase of just kind of like what's going on, trying to get like diagnosis, and you're kind of still clinging to your former abilities where you're like, oh, but I used to like, do X, Y, and Z. For me, it's like being able to like be really physically active and run. And then now you're having these physical limitations and that also is very much within art making and just energy levels in my case. But then there's something kind of transformative that I think happens for many people. Everybody is very unique with this, where there's kind of a way to accept your kind of new reality around like disability and illness and engaging more with like social aspects and community aspects of things that are both, limitations and constraints and challenges, but also like a really open up interesting doors for possibility and community and art making and a new way to be in a relationship with art making that is also like sustainable. It's a different kind of sustainability, but you have to learn like, okay, like this routine looks totally different, and yet it can be grounding in such an equally profound way that's like, okay, I can't do X, Y, and Z, but it's gifting me this other kind of awareness that allows me to lock in this new way. And neither one is necessarily better, but I feel like it's having maybe that kind of way of looking at patience and loving the kind of stability and locked-inness of a project, I think has a really nice push-pull with my relationship with ongoing like health issues and disability, in a way to kind of communicate struggle, but also communicate like a lot of joy in learning a new way to be in touch with your body in that way. Mm-hmm. It's a long-winded answer, but it kind of
that's
emerged.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's a reflection of, I think, a process that most folks go through with recognizing limitation in some way, right? Not necessarily physically, but in any way that, we have, I know for myself, some kind of recognition of like, oh, this thing is a challenge for me. I don't necessarily like that. I don't want it to be a challenge. I don't accept that, and coming through that process of learning to accept, whatever limitations I might have, like you said, opens up new pathways, right? And it allows me, I think, to kind of be more authentically, in accepting whatever, like you could look, anything in a way is sort of a limitation, right? A perspective, point of view. If you live in one place, you're not living in every other place, right? It's like we make choices all day long that are like negations, but also like acceptances. And for me, it's just like, the more I accept like where I'm at, the better I can address where I'm at. It's sort of like a no-brainer in a way, but it's funny how much we fight that.
Well, yeah, I was having a conversation with a friend recently about that. It was her own struggles with letting something go, the big narrative story about who she was, what her life was about, where she was going. And then she came to this place, she's like, that might never, ever happen. Like there was this thing of, I have to completely let go of the possibility of it happening at some point. And then by doing that, come to this place where she was like, now what? Like, okay, now what? Like, I'm still alive. There's life to be had. What now? And that has really stuck with me, that conversation of just Pulling the perspective, which is, again, very hard sometimes, depending on how tethered we are to where we think we're supposed to go or where we think we are going. Pulling it away and looking around and being like, okay, now what? What's available? And that's essentially all, like you said, that is all of life. It's just a series of limitations and then openings. And it's like, nope. Okay, yes. Nope. It's like, that's how trees grow. That's how like everything grows. It's like, nope. There's no light there. There's no water there. There is this way. I'm going to go this way. And then sometimes you see the most beautiful forms come out of that, out of like the strangest limitations. Creates such beauty.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we're more used to having conversations about that within art making around things like, there's a financial limitation, maybe a location limitation, the actual limitations of a material, and then beautiful things that come out of that are being uninspired and then suddenly breaking through a block. And I think sometimes what gets missed is the conversation around limitations due to disability or illness of different kinds, and which is kind of sad because there's just, some of my favorite art, past and present, is really grown out of some of those quote unquote limitations and the way that people really both express their experience of that, but then also use it in these like fabulous and inventive ways that just would never have come about, And so often it can feel like when you're learning a new medium, especially in like classes I've taken, you just feel like, I'm failing because I can't like lift this huge thing. I'm failing because I just don't have the strength. There's many art mediums that are a little bit more like brute strength than like sculpture and aspects of printmaking. So it's nice to like have found ways and found a lot of inspiration from different people, different teachers being like, there's ways around this that are like, actually will give you an interesting way, like make huge work by making tons of small work and putting it together. Like, and that then tells its own story and its own, not limitation, but like you said, door opening. So it's nice to try to approach challenges with the art making process that way, that like, okay, I'm hitting some kind of, block or obstacle here that I'm like, I just can't do it this way. How can I not just work with that, but make that obstacle into something that is like creative material itself, I guess.
That makes me think of your placard installation. Is that kind of where that idea?
That's where it really started.
Do you want to maybe describe what that was, that project?
Yeah, so that was kind of early on in learning some, like I said, from learning screen printing at such a young age, but I didn't really take on any other printmaking in my art practice for a long time until I got some opportunities to take some printmaking classes at University of New Mexico. And there I got to, try a bunch of things first, see what I really loved. And I really fell in love with intaglio, which is somewhat better suited to having some like physical strength limitations because it's smaller, but it's also like, you're still having to do a lot of dexterous, hard things with your hands, with like different techniques with the copper plates. And I really loved the idea of making big work, but I was like, this just doesn't feel accessible. It's too tiring for me to print like a really big plate and then print it all day. Like I just don't have the stamina to be on my feet in that way. And so much of printmaking is just being on your feet all day. And I had a great professor there, Yoshiko Shimano, and she was like, just make little work and then make it huge, because she's a small framed person and was like, I'm printing these enormous prints with like the back of a wooden spoon, like a little bit at a time, and piecing these things together. And I mean, she makes a range of work, but her kind of conversation with me about that was really helpful to kind of feel less like, oh, I'm just like looking at the enormous presses and I want to make this huge plate and these projects, or people have 4 people printing and I just like, I can't do it. So with this project, it was kind of leaning very on the nose into experience of disability, especially like invisible disabilities and the fluidity of disability experiences, especially chronic illness, where it's like it's not the same day to day, it's not the same person to person. So reimagining the like disability accessible parking placard, and kind of just doing a bunch of, I mean, they're exactly that size, so not too big, but then being able to make these installations that could be like, 8 feet tall because they're made of like 120 individual small prints, and I can take my time. They're mono prints, so I can do one in a day if that's all I have the energy for, and kind of build that up over time and still have access to making something large, but it also in its like being constituted of so many little pieces, it feels really reflective of like the limitation becomes built into it in a way that I was really happy with. And so I've tried to take the lessons from that early project into some of my other projects, and this kind of like making small plates, but then reconstituting them over and over again in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also like different images that where like you have maybe the plate part of the piece is smaller, but then there's other things happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whether that's more kind of like the embossing or the embroidery, that it's like it goes beyond just the plate aspect of a print.
Right. So you can add stuff over time. Again, spreading out, being like, I don't have the energy, because so much of, it's just really auditioning. It's like these long days and trying to do everything in one go. And when that can be a challenge, or you maybe can't bank on how your energy is going to be in one day, how can you then make that part of the process in a positive way that's like a feature instead of like a flaw, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. And then, so going back to kind of like your musical trajectory, you started a record label. Did when you go into these universes, do they feel like things like, oh, I'm just going to kind of be hanging out in here for a little bit and then I'll probably move on to something else? Or because I know for me, like I tend to kind of like jump in and be like, this is all I do, or how does that feel when you kind of go into a new kind of universe?
I think a little bit of both, although I do like to think that maybe eventually you do enough of that and it's like your own extended universe, and things speak to each other, and you're like, oh, well, like you're a character in that universe. You can meet back over here. I mean, so many musicians are wonderful visual artists, so I feel like I've had interesting cross collaborations from both those worlds in many ways as well. But yeah, I think with the record label at that time, I was really music focused, but I really liked being engaged in this kind of wider artistic universe around music and my own visual art, and creating, album artwork and kind of oddball merchandise, and then kind of sharing that with other bands, many of which had amazing visual artists in it. And it was like, how can we just like make these wild dreams happen of like working with a friend of mine, Monica DeMarco, an amazing musician. She's also in that band Chichara that I did the song for the piece in the Sound and Vision show. But she had a solo record under her solo moniker Cthulhu. And it's like, man, we were so met with the like, how many weird creative like separate universes can we just merge here into a release show, where she's an incredible aerialist and musician and visual artist, and she knew all these chefs, so it was like a 10-course meal with each course paired with a song that was performed on a like a baby grand piano with people doing aerial silks over it. And it was like, how many different things can we do? So having that, like, yes, there's these different like focal points within maybe the universes. Like, okay, the focus is working on this record label and these kind of musically focused relationships, but like it can get so expansive. I think finding people to collaborate in that way is the best. And I feel like I try to think about that with art, although maybe the thing that's been a little bit more restful with visual art and being in my visual art adjacent universe is maybe being able to collaborate, but also so much of music is so dependent on working with lots of people. And sometimes at certain points of your life, especially maybe with illness stuff, you're like, I kind of just need to not have to leave the house for a little bit, or have those ebbs and flows of like super wonderful large group collaborations to also being able to have these very kind of solitary, like spaced projects as well.
What you just described to me reminds me so much of theater.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, it's like you're creating theater, but there's not necessarily a set audience or like a film at the end. There's like, this is my product. It's just this very ephemeral thing that is occurring. And again, thinking about the process is so much more important than like a completion of whatever.
Yeah, it's all process. It's all process all the way down.
Yeah.
And with theater, it's like it happens then and there.
And that's that.
And that's it. And that used to be the case with music.
That's
before
true.
recordings. That you had to be there.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting to think about. Like it was totally ephemeral.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if you're at a performance, even if they record it, it is like it's obviously a different experience being there.
Yeah. Well, and live performances of music, very different thing than a recording of that.
Right.
Because again, it's like it's not just the music; it's the people that have shown up. It's the stage. It's what has occurred before the band or the musician has stepped on the stage. It's all of it. Yeah. I still think sometimes for the longest time you had a quote on your Instagram page and it stuck with me so deeply, and I would refer back to it occasionally. I haven't thought about it in a long time, but it just came to me. And it was something like, how you do one thing in life is how you do all things. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. And I feel like it was actually a little bit of a joke because a friend would say that kind of kindly chidingly. And I was like, whatever, maybe that will be my motto. How you do anything is how you do everything.
What was the chiding? I'm curious because it was very impactful actually for me.
I mean, I think friends gently will be like, maybe you're going a little too hard in all of your adjacent interacting extended universes. And sometimes it's nice to take breaks and actually like take a moment to just sit back at the moment of completion and learn to enjoy those spaces in between before just jumping in to the next. So I think it maybe came from that kind of place. Like how you do anything is how you do everything. And everything is so hard and that's taken a toll. So I feel like I've gotten moderately better. The moderation part. But
what would your quote now be?
Oh gosh, that's hard to be put on the spot.
I know.
Maybe kind of the same. Maybe not the exact same words, but a similar sentiment. But I think that you can learn to embrace those words in a slower paced way. That maybe you need to do everything with a little bit more patience and slowing down.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Well, I mean, the way I took it, I'll say.
How did you take it?
I took it as presence.
Okay.
That it's all just about presence.
Yeah.
And it actually has nothing to do. I mean, it has something to do with what you're doing.
I mean, I think that's where
informs
that
you.
comes from. And that's more where I was in a more paced version, trying to aspire to of like everything that you do, whether it's something that you're like, this is my thing that I want everyone to know about, to something that's just little day-to-day things, the way you take care of yourself, the way you move through the world, and little inconsequential interactions should have the same kind of care. And it's hard to remember that, especially when it's this hot and I just feel grumpy and melting.
And you're
and you're
7 months pregnant.
7 months pregnant. You're like, yeah, this is hard. I am tired.
I don't have presents right now.
What do you mean presents?
I need presents. Give me presents.
I would like to be less present right now. For sure.
Well, one of the things that, your visual work, at least for the most part, the intaglio, it feels very consistent. And like the recent series of window cuts felt like there was a little bit of a different sort of thread going on there. But like most of the intaglio work you've done is like I could be, oh, that's Eliza's work. And I could see it, the connections between all of it. So, I mean, maybe that's part of it, maybe being like a little less creatively collaborative, like it's going to be your voice more presently. And that's been really cool to watch, how your work has evolved over the past few years, and yet at the same time, how consistent it's been too.
That's interesting to hear. Yeah, I feel like it was also interesting moving from doing the bulk of my visual artwork, being less printmaking focused, but also being very kind of mercantile. Like, it's still creative, it's still conceptual, but at the end of the day, you're like making album art, you're making a t-shirt. And I think that there's a lot of interesting discourse about like the blurry line, right, between like what is quote unquote fine art, what is quote unquote commercial art. It's not so black and white, obviously. And the two kind of spheres overlap and inform each other. But I think being more on one side than the other, it's difficult to like have some kind of cohesion sometimes, because you're serving a very different endpoint, a different audience. And so it's been really nice over the last few years to really depart from things that have that kind of end goal in mind. And it was, it's still a struggle, but I think it's a struggle for anybody, but especially kind of pivoting from that world, it is hard to kind of get your grounding and be like, what if I have full reign on just like a concept that's purely mine?
Right.
Even some of the, making album art for my own music is still kind of maybe within kind of more my sphere than somebody else's, but it's still a different kind of endpoint. So it's been interesting kind of teasing that out for myself as well. And those Lino cuts were for album art. So it makes sense that there'd be like this separate little thing of like, oh yeah, these all go with specific songs or specific motifs. And it was me wanting to reach back into printmaking and be like, I want these worlds to connect, but they're going to feel a little different than something that's so much more this whole separate piece of just focusing more on what most of my now visual art has focused on in the last 5-6 years around disability and relationship with the body and the mind and that kind of sphere, and how to not just make that kind of topically what the art is about, but really again that like embodied art practice where the limitations or openings, open doors from the things you're experiencing from that physical and mental place also are just interwoven in the process of the making too. So then I think it maybe becomes more cohesive from that.
There's also the piece of the intaglio has the yarn and the embroidery, which that's like whole other quality that is being brought in with, I'm sure, whole kind of different contemplation, maybe.
Yeah.
To bring in that material. And that, it's so time consuming and
It is.
tiny.
Very like meditative as well. I think I took an embroidery class from a friend over Zoom at the beginning of the pandemic, and really enjoyed the slowness of it. I mean, I do some slow mediums, but embroidery is pretty at the slow end of the slow spectrum. And it was a wonderful way at first to just do kind of tiny projects for pleasure. And it's a real, like, felt very grounding for anxiety and felt grounding for a lot of the chronic pain that I deal with. Of just like, oh my God, how can I just kind of try to just calm my mind for a bit with this? I mean, it can be exacerbating, surely, for some things related to that, just the time-consuming nature and repetitive nature, but also is just a way to just kind of like literally just one stitch at a time, just like take the time in these tiny little increments. And it's a nice parallel with dealing with chronic pain symptoms. You're like, that's literally kind of all that you can do sometimes. And it feels kind of like nothing in the moment in those tiny little steps. But then you look back and you're like, oh, okay, like something kind of came from this. And you see that progress, even if it's small, it feels kind of monumental. And so I think including that in my printmaking is both the practice of just that kind of calm from the busierness of the actual printmaking, which you can still pace yourself, but is a little bit less paced than sitting and slowly stitching, to have these moments with the prints, especially like the All in Your Head series and the placards, the First Impression series. It's like wonderful to have this kind of collection of monoprints, variable editions, and then you still have this second little voice to express, which is like, well, they're all a little bit different, kind of like every day is a little bit different, every like experience of the same symptom, like no experience of chronic pain, person to person, or for me, day to day, minute to minute is the same. And so just sitting with that and doing different embroidery is kind of a nice way to both feel that in real time and then find a way to express it more tangibly, which is fun because then it's like the project is always kind of evolving. Although then I end up with like, wow, it's hard enough to just get all the prints done, and then they're not really done because then they still need to be embroidered. And then I'm still working on embroidering fully printed series years later sometimes. But
Takes the time it takes.
Takes the time it takes.
Yeah.
How you do anything is how you do every other.
Right.
Slow.
Well, it makes me think too of, embroidery, is a kind of language. So we went to a talk a year ago, maybe, I don't know. I don't want to say the name out in the podcast because it's kind of top secret, but there was a speaker that was talking about embroidery and the history of embroidery and how you can look at different stitches and the way that they're done and like actually see what time period they came from, what country they came from, and that there's a language to embroidery, and that somehow, I don't know, by you adding the embroidery on top of printmaking, it's kind of like this, it's almost like embellishment, but it's also this other narrative going on top of the print.
It's a real like language of time and a record of time. And I mean, all art is like that to a degree, but there's something so, I don't know, tangible, I think, looking at stitching and like feeling somebody's hands on that thing over and over and over again.
Like, I think
passing time.
No one can look at embroidery and not think like that took an enormous amount of time.
Yeah.
That was not done by machine. That was not some kind of just like, oh, let's just see what's going to happen. There's a tremendous amount of, forethought, planning, all of the things going into that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you have a show coming up very, very quickly.
Yes.
the title is very interesting because I think it maybe had one meaning and developed into other meanings.
Definitely.
um, can you talk about maybe like how it started and through that, experience of caretaking and then through your present experience being pregnant and just kind of how you see this show coming together?
Yeah, well, the show is called All the Lives Alive Inside Me, which more recently feels literal, but started incredibly abstract and has been kind of, I think for many people, when you work on a show for multiple years, kind of working on a body of work, again, going back to process was everything. Where you think you're going is never where you end up. And that's sometimes my favorite part, even if it sometimes is hard to get there, or letting go of the initial outcome that you envisioned. I think when you first invited me to do this show, it was like 3 years out. And at first you were like, I'm sorry, it's like 3 years from now. And I was like, no, Frank, I like the process. This is going to be, imagine how tethered I'm going to be for the next 3 years. But also I didn't know really where I wanted to go. And I was still kind of, I think, finding my grounding in what I wanted my visual art, specifically like printmaking practice, to look like. I'd really loved kind of finding my footing with kind of processing a lot of things with my health, with disability on a very personal level, starting to think about it more socially and community level, through printmaking, both like I said, topically, and then like through the process itself. And so there's a ton to work with there. So it's like, oh, there's so many ideas I had. And then it was very interesting because in my personal life, it was coinciding with, this other side of the illness experience, which is caretaking. And I think because of that symbiotic relationship, many people we all experience illness at some point in time, disability at some point in time, and also caretaking. And in my personal life, my partner and I were taking care of three main people. His mom had some early onset dementia from the time that I met him, and he was always her primary caretaker. And when we got together, that was just like, okay, well, now we're a team doing this, how can I support you? And that was a very long process. And overlapping with this was some declining health with my grandparents. And even though they don't live here locally, going out and helping my aunt take care of my grandmother, especially towards the end of her life. And then my partner's aunt had a very acute onset illness. And so there was this 2-year period where it just felt like everything that we were doing, I'd maybe just kind of found some stability with my own health, and learning kind of how to take things slower with my own needs, and accepting being cared for by others, and then finding out what you can offer in return within your community, and being a caretaker. And it was incredibly hard. And then especially in the backdrop of the pandemic, I think many people who were chronically ill, disabled before the pandemic, became chronically ill, disabled during the pandemic, caregivers, the isolation, I don't think anyone can ever really communicate it fully, and experiencing that just overload that anyone, I think, in the throes of really intense caretaking can feel, and then especially in those circumstances. And it took a lot out of us. So it was kind of all I was thinking about a bit in those early days of thinking about the show, and especially the relationship in my mind. What does it mean to receive care? What does it mean to give care? And then these kind of generational caretaking ties. And interestingly, unexpectedly, all three of them passed away within 5 months of each other. So we went from being kind of full on, this is all that we're doing, to being oh my God, we're grieving we kind of thought maybe we'd have like, this would be who with these kinds of things, you never know. Oftentimes it could be another decade of just this being what we're wading through, and then it changes kind of unexpectedly. And at the same time, when it's family members passing away, you're also wading through like the materials of their lives, and they were all so creative and artistic. My partner's mother was an incredible French tapestry weaver. I mean, going through all of these weavings and these boxes of yarn, and you just start thinking about all of these ways in which these cycles of caregiving occur in families, and the kind of remains of their caretaking, as well as you then caretaking. I don't know, I'm kind of just going off now, but it sort of felt like just kind of overwhelming to be so immersed, not just in caretaking, but in the literal material traces of their lives, which very much was about them being caretakers, before maybe the end of their lives where they needed more to be receiving care. And I really wanted a way to pay homage to that reciprocity, really leaning into some other textile mediums, not just embroidery, but, all of these sort of very tangible traces of care that often comes through textile art, and going back to like commercial or folk art or domestic arts versus fine art, and that weird blurry line, how to bring those two things together. And I was thinking a lot about printmaking and textile art and kind of new ways to merge those together. And so this show came together as kind of like 3 different series that kind of touch on different aspects of that. Maybe the most on the nose is the full textile pieces, which was kind of new and a little scary to go into just making fabric pieces. They still involve printmaking, but printmaking on fabric, which is also maybe in this kind of domestic arts side of printmaking sometimes. But this time using a lot of using their threads, using their yarn, using their clothing, and making these pieces about the reciprocity of caretaking, and then wanting to find ways to bring that back into my printmaking practice. So having a series that's just about the textiles that they created that I recall from childhood, or my partner recalls from childhood. There's these different printmaking techniques to kind of just elevate those textiles that just feel like this kind of lingering attachment to that care that they provided. And then maybe the most on the nose is the Fence Sitter series, which I think because I loved doing the First Impression series with the placard, I love to repurpose a medical motif. And I was like, oh, what better thing like a sonogram, the image of just like what's living inside you more abstractly, like these kind of memories of receiving care from them, memories of being a caretaker for them, these weird kind of portals of potential futures that open up through that process of caretaking, and then not knowing what decisions, what crossroads you'll be at because of just the way your health goes, the way your loved ones pass, and you kind of end up on these kind of unknown paths. And that kind of left us kind of unexpectedly with the space, my partner and I, to reconsider having children, becoming parents. I hadn't really considered it very seriously before due to health issues and caretaking obligations. And then through the process of creating the show and that series of the sonograms, which I made many before even considering getting pregnant, and then during the process of trying to get pregnant and then being pregnant and then having my own sonograms, was the kind of a wild culmination. The kind of last piece of the show was like, oh, like all of this caretaking, legacy, reciprocity in families, it lives on in all of these material traces that we're surrounded with from our loved ones, and in our bodies and physically, whether that's, a literal tiny human growing in me now, or more just the legacy of all of those memories of giving and receiving care in that way. Sorry, that's so long-winded, but
It's perfect.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. I tried to be like, there is a through line here.
Yeah, there is.
But it was big feels being in the grief space, but also the rebirth space. Yeah.
That feels like a
that
really
feels-
nice bow on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the show opens September Saturday this time because of Zozobra. We tried to do an opening last year on Zozobra night. Not a good idea.
Good.
No.
Nobody was there.
No one can find parking.
No. So Saturday, do you have a calendar? Is it the 4th?
The 5th.
It's the 5th. Saturday, September 5th, 5 to 7. And then we'll do an artist talk on the next day at noon. Coffee and donuts with B. Brown as well. What a lovely pairing you two will make.
I'm
my
so
God.
excited for that show.
Yeah, and just like
match made in heaven.
yeah, just like brilliant
Visually.
craft and yeah, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is great.
Yeah. Yay.
Ta-da!